Hello everyone and welcome back to the main action. It is John Higgins against Zhao Xintong against the world number 6 against the world number 11. It is the Wizard of Wishaw against the Cyclone. It is of course two world champions against each other, and what a massive battle we've got on our hands. We've got some brilliant matchups already. Sean Murphy and Neil Robertson are going to be facing each other tomorrow in the round 3 clash, but for now it is John Higgins against Zhao Xintong. Certainly looking forward to this battle with so much unlocked potential here, with only 7 frames potentially to be played. Very much looking forward to see what is going to happen here. And for now, just waiting for the players to come out. Certainly, as Zhao Xintong comes into this match as the favourite, I don't necessarily understand that. I get that he's the current world champion, but he's still the world number 11, with John Higgins being still not his best, but certainly still one of the best players on the tour, with the world number 6 player. And yeah, as I say, no real point to be doing score predictions at such an early stage of the tournament, but if I had to go for one, I would probably say Zhao Xintong 4 frames to 3. I think it's certainly a battle on our hands, and I certainly think that John Higgins will have a chance of his own. And for now, we're just getting started on the match here. Still no sign of action. The referee have certainly gone to the table, but still yet to see the players. I've jumped the start here slightly, and surely the walkout will start as it is. We've got John Higgins against Zhao Xintong walking out very carefully, making sure they'll head to the right table, which is going to be table number 1. And with the WSD play, you are now able to access all of those matches being played on 4 tables here at the British Open in Cheltenham. And we've got the first real battle on our hands. Still Mark Cullen against Mark Williams tomorrow. Some cracking battles in this round 3. And of course on the same day we're going to have the last 16. So a little bit of a bunched up format. But I don't think they'll do players too much damage, as in the end referee Just having a little word there with John Higgins, and nice little handshake between the players, and we're ready to get started. It will be Zhao Xintong to get us underway here, and have a break here. So let's see what he will bring to the table. I think it certainly is going to be attacking style of play versus attacking style of play, experience versus youth, and world champion against world champion, as I mentioned. Zhao Xintong being the reigning one. John Higgins, it's been a while since he's won a title, to be fair, but he's certainly one of the best players on the tour still, and that is backed up with him being higher than the world champion, which, to be fair, was heading into the end of the last season at an amateur status. And straight away John Higgins will have a chance to go for a red into the left corner, the chance that he will miss. So we're up and running here certainly. Is he going to give a red out to Zhao Xintong? I don't think he will. So I think he got away with this one. And I think he will be just a safety shot after this, but certainly could have been a little bit of a dangerous shot there from John Higgins to try and take on, landing perfectly on the blue, but of course missing the red was the most important part for him. And in the end, we're back to the safety side of play. Zhao Xintong hasn't got an opener and has to settle for a safe shot here. I don't certainly think we're going to see a lot of safety here from Zhao Xintong. He's been he's been through a decider against Ashley Hugel, same as John Higgins against Mark Davies, so they've not been up and running straight away there, and head-to-head actually goes in favour of Higgins. The pair have met 9 times between each other in the ranking titles, and the Wizard of Wishaw managed to defeat Zhao Xintong on 6 of those occasions, and of course the battle comes as late as 2015 there, in the Shanghai Masters. And for now, I did say it was going to be an attacking side of things, but certainly the players are being careful with each other. Just sending the cue ball up the table towards the ball cushion yet again here, Zhao Xintong. And John Higgins has got not so much room now. I think he has to exploit the right-hand side of the table to try and get the cue ball safe yet again. And that red will be going towards the left corner, but catches another one on the way in. And once again, good safety there from John Higgins. I think the cue ball control could have been a little bit better. Left a lot of room now for Zhao to try and exploit. You can try and hit this red in towards the right corner and screw the cue ball back for the blue here if he wants to. Decided to go for another approach, and I don't think that's going to work out too nicely for him, as he now leaves a difficult cut for John Higgins into the right middle, but certainly the one that you still would expect him to take on. And right now he's just exploiting the option to send the cue ball down the table here. I don't think it's going to be too straightforward for him, as the queuing is going to go hard into the reds here with the cue ball. Certainly not an easy shot to play, but the one that Higgins, if he doesn't play this shot, he has to at least take it out of the equation, which he will. So I think it probably is the right decision, even though the match is going to be played in attacking fashion. I think has to be a sensible side of things, and just taking red out into the left corner and in towards the left hand cushion, which was a smart idea there from Higgins. And back to the safety we go once again, live on ITV4. Well, there you go. If you're watching in the UK, I've got the WST Play membership, so don't have to do that. And yeah, you can watch all of the 4 actions with 4 tables and 4 matches being played at the same time here. We're still yet to find out the winner of the match between Sunny Akani and Martin O'Donnell, but for now, it is first chance certainly to Zhao Xintong, the younger world champion of the two, by only a year or so, is going to get the first chance. He's got a red in towards the left corner. I think the two there have gone towards the right corner, covering up each other. And right now, Zhao Xintong has to realise whether that's the case or try and go for something else here. For now, it looks like he will go for something else. So it certainly looked like it was a chance for Zhao Xintong, but he refuses the chance. And it's the second time that's happened. Higgins being the first one. And now Zhao Xintong responding So, you know, my prediction of the match being played in an attacking style hasn't gone to plan yet. With the black ball now being out of the game, the pink has followed its reasoning, and Zhao Xintong is actually leading in the poll by 55% to 45%, not in favour of John Higgins. Probably understanding and actually aligning with odds very nicely. But I think the momentum is going to be very important. I'm not even going to say that it's going to be the actual frames that you win. Because, as I say, looking forward to the matchup between Murphy and Robertson tomorrow. I think it's scheduled to be at 1 o'clock there, or maybe 3 o'clock. But haven't really seen enough of Murphy. He had a decent matchup against Scott Donaldson today, but he was struggling there to string the cue ball control together, and his positional play was dreadful, especially in the early stages of the match, but still managed to break away there. 4-1 scoreline certainly doesn't represent what he actually was facing himself with. And for now, John Higgins once again, lovely little shot sending the cue ball up towards the black ball area. And Zhao Xintong will have a couple of reds to choose from. I think he could have tried to roll a red in towards the right corner, had the black been on his spot, but with that colour being nowhere near its equation and its usual spot where you can, well, find it for the majority of the snooker table time, Xintong has to settle for a safety shot. Certainly will be looking to improve on his start to the season. I don't think either of the player can be satisfied with what they got so far. Still yet to see a major breakthrough into the late stage of the tournament from either of them. I have to say, especially from Xintong being on such of the up there, beating some of the world's best players last year in the World Championship, coming back from all levels of qualifiers to beat Elias Lesser in a decider, in the end to book himself into the World Championship, which of course resulted in an absolute fairy tale for the Chinese star, becoming the first world champion from his country and beating some of the world best players along the way. And, well, I say beat, destroy Ronnie O'Sullivan in semi-final, and then still have a wonderful and a very confident performance against Mark Williams. For now, John Higgins goes for a shot that was looking to line up a red into the left corner, but with the cue ball positioning, clearly thinking about the safety side of things more. And back to we go. So all of a sudden, just as I mentioned, John Higgins managed to level up in the poll, 50% each. And Zhao Xintong once again looking to send the cue ball down the table, and potentially a flat that is found there. In the end, nothing doing, but sublime cue ball control. And, well, I have to say, even though the match hasn't started in the aggressive approach, you do have to admire the level of skill and technique that both players have and possess here. For now, lovely stuff there. And once again, Higgins acknowledging the safety shot that his opponent has managed to play, with the cue ball being sent down the table shortly. But what are the options here for the man from Scotland? I think you could try and just edge the red on towards next to the pink there on the right hand side of the pink, and just try and catch the right edge of it. Send the cue ball up the table yet again, but has to be very careful he doesn't catch too much of that and goes into the reds, which is exactly what happens. Almost felt like a disaster was coming, especially with the time that Higgins took on the approach of the shot, and he knows he probably has given away a chance, but the question is, can Zhao here get the cue ball into the next color? The black is still out of the position, the pink is covered up by the red, and the pathway to blue or bold colors is certainly not going to be easy here. So a very important shot, because the chance that was given away to Zhao Xintong could easily be given back to John Higgins. And very unlucky there from the Chinese star, as he actually managed to find his way through on towards one of the bold colors, but puts the cue ball alongside the red. And it certainly will be John Higgins back to the table, and chance not taken there from Zhao Xintong. It is, of course, very early stage of the frame, but with the red lined up there very nicely for Higgins into the left corner, I think the black will go in towards the right corner, and all of a sudden, the multiple-time world champion can be in here, Because very deadly, especially if, I say, comes to a decider, has got by far the best stats of anyone on tour when it comes to deciders in this and last season. And can't make the red though. Was expecting him to get that one, but in the end he didn't. And Zhao Xintong once again will come back to the table straight away, although Higgins had played this one for the ball colours, so I don't think that's going to give an easy invitation to Zhao Xintong. I still think he'll have one or two reds lined up into the right corner and try and get himself freed up in terms of getting himself on the next colour. But very interesting start, as I say. Two players showing the level of skill earlier on, but then both of them missing an early chance that was presented to them. And it looks like it'll be a battle till the next chance, because Zhao Xintong certainly doesn't feel like taking another risky red in towards the right corner. Catches the red pretty much full ball though on the yellow, and the cue ball is just above the balk line. Zhao Xintong goes back to his chair, and back to the table comes John Higgins for one more safety shot, pushing more reds on towards the right corner. Still none of them really being too close and sort of available for you to leave into favour of your opponent. And back to the Zhao Xintong we go. So still certainly playing the patience game so far, but when that's off the table, I expect to see brilliant break building from either one of those two, of course. Shot time is going to be a little bit higher for Zhao Xintong, as meanwhile the WST player decided to switch on to Martin O'Donnell, who has booked himself into the last 32 after beating Sonny Akani there with a scoreline of 4 frames to 2. And meanwhile, Zhao Xintong still hasn't, well, managed to figure out really what his approach is going to be on this shot. Try and send the cue ball down into the reds. It's going to be an opportunity, but as I say, how do you get out of there? And a little smile on his face, which probably is saying that something big is coming. And attention all pockets potentially. Yes, he was, because he played into the red very, very heavily and relied on it going safe there. In the end, is he going to do that? I think he will. So the cue ball control was brilliant there from Zhao Xintong. And in the end, it's probably about as much as he could have done. John Higgins steps back to the table with no real opportunity for him at this moment in time. And just has to play into the red here. Trying to catch the thin edge of that and send the cue ball in behind the green. Very lovely shot indeed, because this time only leaves the left-hand side of the table for Zhao Xintong to try and exploit, and that is the most dangerous one, because the only sort of chance for you to try and catch one of those reds is going to be sending the cue ball into the left-hand side of the table, and therefore some of those reds will be going very close to the right corner pocket. But Zhao takes a wonderful shot there, dispatches the highest of the reds on the table, and in the end leaves John Higgins with a very similar position to the one the Scottish man has actually left to the Chinese player on the previous time of asking. But Higgins potentially lining up a plant which very much looks like the one that an amateur would take, but not necessarily a professional and a multiple world champion, with so much distance there in between the reds. And with 3 of them in action, surely that's not going to make it into the pocket. It won't. But I suppose it was worth the effort there from Higgins, because the cue ball's still gone very, very safe there. Wizard versus Cyclone. Yes, certainly. The Wizard of Wisho against the Cyclone. You could say world champion against world champion. You could say the world number 6 against the world number 11. And you could probably say a person that has underperformed this season versus a person that's underperformed as well. But is one of them about to go onto a brilliant campaign here at British Open? And you never know, maybe reach the semi-final stage for the first time this year. As once again, I think it is going to be chance number 2 here for John Higgins. Once again, the red has gone very close to the right corner, but the cue ball is going to be heading in towards the reds yet again here. And how we're looking for the next color position. I'm not too sure. The black is not going to be available to go into the left corner, neither will pink. So a lot of power and a little bit of chaos you would expect on this wonderful table to happen in just a couple of seconds time. And the cue ball has gone outside of the reds. Is he going to land on the pink? No, he won't. And actually, John Higgins is facing himself being snookered here. As it looks like you only get 1 point here on this time of asking. And very interesting to see which colour is he actually going to take on, because I do think he's in a little bit of trouble, because that shot has sent the red in towards the top part of the table, and therefore can't really take one of the ball colours full ball there. You have to control the cue ball position. You can't really do that with the black there, with so many reds being available into the right corner. And you can't do that with the pink anyway, so I think you probably have to try and roll up to the yellow, but therefore you're going to lose a lot of points. Either if you misjudge it and give a red into the green pocket, or if you try and do, well, sort of try to roll off to the yellow and not necessarily get enough pace on the cue ball. But Higgins has got something else in mind. And yeah, I have to say, I didn't really like that shot selection. And I think we're about to see why. Especially with him playing so hard into these black. Has he given a red out into the right corner there? Don't think he has, because Zhao had a quick look at it. But very, very close. You can see on the replay, camera zooming in. Higgins certainly was risking that shot. But it looks like it's actually worked out for him very, very nicely here. And, well, to be fair, Xintong has got a red available into the green sort of pocket. But, yes, again, if you're sending the red ball towards it, the cue ball is going to go onto the lower part of the table, and therefore probably give out a red towards John Higgins. So, alternative approach is taken here by Xintong, and his approach that I think is going to just about work out. I thought going to give away 4 points there to John Higgins, but he's alright. And back to the action we go. John Higgins right now probably will put some distance in there between the cue ball and the red that is pretty much stuck to right now. Just try and generate a little bit of power. And a little bit of distance there in between the two of them. Lovely shot there from Higgins. You know, simple yet effective. And Xintong has got the cue ball right on the cushion here. Once again, the red will be going towards the left middle. Is an option. But the question has to be asked, is this shot worth the risk for him? And I certainly don't think it is. Because the cue ball will be going very close to the sort of blue spot, which is currently empty, with the blue being out of position, and very close to the green pocket itself. And right now, Xintong managed to get a brilliant shot in here. I mean, I thought Higgins managed to get him into a little bit of trouble in terms of not being able to use backspin. Just how close the cue ball actually was into the black cushion there. But, I mean, if that shot wasn't good enough there from Higgins, this shot from Xintong certainly is. And, well, what does it leave Higgins with? Potentially a shot into the right middle if he doesn't find sort of any approach to the safety. And for now, he's still leading Xintong with 52% right now. That number is changing constantly. So feel free to vote. Who do you think will win this match? I think Higgins will be a slight crowd favourite, with it being the British Open. And John Higgins, of course, being British himself. And Xintong will find himself in a little bit of a shot selection to try and make, as he got this red to try and roll into the right middle. Or is he going to just send the cue ball in behind the black here yet again? I did say it was going to be a very attacking play, and yet in the first 22 minutes or so, we still haven't had, well, 2 pots there. We had a single pot from John Higgins, and we had a foul shot there from Xintong, which don't necessarily think will count. And right now, once again, the man from China, the world number 11, is going to exploit the option of sending this red towards the left part of the table, and he's actually gone for the red into the middle. So I think this will open things up here, because Higgins basically is forced to take this red in towards the left middle right now. So, once again, not perfect in terms of the cue ball positioning on either one of the colours. The blue is blocking the green from going in its own spot. So, brown or black, you would expect to be the target here. And, well, I mean, I think that will be the case throughout the majority of this break. Unless one of the players will be able to free up one of the four colours that are currently out of position. And Higgins is trying to do that right now by taking the red out of the pink there. And land himself in towards the left middle for the brown. In the end, misses the red. And back to the safety, I think we go. Because the two chances that players have had, well, pretty much in front of each other, have now disappeared. And yet again, we're going to find players battling for a safety play here. Xintong. I mean, I do love the pole switching every single time. It just shows how great of a matchup it is. And we're still yet to see the best of this. 53% are now going for Xintong here. Lovely to see that. And, well, it is Xintong at the wheel currently, with him trying to roll the cue ball in behind the yellow. Don't think he's done that. And when I say Xintong is at the wheel, he just basically drove himself into the bush here, because John Higgins yet again has got a red into the right middle. This time probably the one that you wouldn't expect him to miss. And yet again, it all comes down to the cue ball positioning. But with the previous red that Higgins attempted himself, he's now freed up the pink into a lot of potential pockets for himself. And right now, it's all about making this red in and just trying to use that black ball cushion for the accelerator of the cue ball to land himself on either black or pink here. And it's a very good shot there from Higgins. So finally, we could be about to see a very, very nice break here from John Higgins, with the reds, some of them being in nice position, some of them not so much. But in terms of what this man can do on a snooker table, especially when he has got a position that is semi-open to him, is something beyond magic. Let's see if we're going to see a lot more magic now from John Higgins, as for now has a really nice touch into the reds, frees up at least one of those into the left middle. And after the shot, I think he'll try and take on the pink to put it back on his spot, which is currently free, with all the safety battles on pushing the reds on towards the right corner. And he's just checking to see if the pink will actually go into the middle. I think the camera angle suggests that he will. And once again, he can just takes the red carefully into the left middle, which will follow up by the pink into the right hand side of the middle pocket of the table. Some of the action is going on the other parts of the table. Anthony Kowalski, Mitchell Mann, Anthony McGill, and just some of the players that are featuring. But of course, this is certainly the most anticipated match, I think, so far of the tournament, with some of the great clashes like that coming into tomorrow. Mark Cullen against Mark Williams, and certainly the one that I'm waiting for, that we couldn't quite see in English Open because of the Jackson Pace show. It was Sean Murphy against Neil Robertson, and I think we are going to see that tomorrow, unless one of the players will pull out of the tournament till then. And by the way, massive shout out to Mark Cullen, getting himself through to the main stage. Of course, had a late match, because 24 hours before that, he was literally putting Zhao on his knees in the final, clinching a brilliant decider, an absolute heartbreak for the young Chinese star. You can only imagine what it feels like for him, and you can only imagine what that feels like for Mark Cullen. And just as I say that, John Higgins has missed an easy pink into the left corner. It probably was the one that you couldn't imagine John Higgins missing. And, well, is the pole going to swing again here? It was lined up perfectly on this pink. Just catches too much of the jaw, and the pink will stay out in the jaws right now. Of course, Xintong has to be very careful with it right now, but to be fair to him, if the pink will drop without any sort of contact from Xintong, because of just how much time there has been in between the shot of Higgins and the player of Xintong, the pink will be put back exactly very close to the edge of the left corner, which is the rule that was introduced in early 2010 years, with a couple of experiences from the players, and you know, the Snooker Association decided that it's a new rule that is going to be implemented. And I mean, it's all going off here in between the players. I certainly think we are going to see a lot better than that. But so far, it is only 1 point for Zhao Xintong as he misses an easy black off the spot there. I mean, I said that pink was easy for John Higgins. Talk about this black, and so far it's very scrappy, the opening frame. Because the good thing is, the best is yet to come. But it better come very quickly for one of these in the opening frame. Because so far, it seems like neither of them really want to win it. And John Higgins is not going to try and do that right now. But they're missing the red in towards the right corner. Probably wasn't the easiest shots that he could have taken on. And don't think he's left anything to Zhao Xintong either. So, a little bit scrappy and a little bit of a battle. But Zhao Xintong once again will send the cue ball in towards the black cushion. Maybe try and play one more red in towards the middle. He's gone for the double. Very close to making that double. But is he going to get unlucky and leave a red in towards the green pocket? I don't think he deserves to. And I don't think he will actually. I think it was a really good shot there from Zhao Xintong. And John Higgins straight away looking for a plant in towards the left middle. The one is going to take a lot of accuracy with, once again, some distance in between the two reds. But also the thing that you should be mindful about is there's only 107 points on the table. So we already had 5 reds eliminated. And only 22 points scored in between the two players. So as I say, a little bit scrappy in terms of the opening frame. But still a sign that the best is yet to come from either one of those two. And for now, back to the safety battle we go. I don't think we are going to have a very quick resolution to this frame. For the simple reason of the pink covering up the left cushion and the left corner pocket. So many reds forming a plant in towards the right hand cushion there. And Zhao Xintong, almost like he heard me and said, well, if we are not going to have a quick resolution, I may as well go for this red in towards the green pocket. Missed it by very little margin, but in the end, the red has travelled all this distance back to the table and has actually landed in below the pink spot here. So it just shows you what the jaws of these tables can do. And John Higgins, I think, will try and do a similar sort of thing. Screw back on the white here and send the red along the cushion in towards the yellow pocket. Miss after miss after miss. Well, we just had one more there from John Higgins, and to be fair, I do think, you know, as I say, both players haven't had a brilliant start in the qualifier. You know, but when you're up against Ashley Hugo and Mark Davis, with all the respect to them, and the world number 6 and world number 11 should be able to breeze a little bit more comfortably than facing a nervy decider in every single one of those matches. But as I say, have to be patient with them too. And I think one of them will inevitably deliver. I don't think it's going to be the best of the worst here. Zhao Xintong once again looking up for another double. This one is going to be a little bit further back there from the middle. But the cue ball control was very nice there from Zhao Xintong. And John Higgins, if he will take this red in towards the right corner, he will risk a lot of power in this cue ball, because he certainly can't generate any backspin here this time around. So has to try and play through it. And ultimately leaves a red as a possibility in towards the right corner. But this time, it is a brilliant shot there from John Higgins. And certainly with him having 21-point cushion to his name already, only 99 points remaining, you would expect him to finally make the most out of the position that he finds himself in and deliver the first knockout punch here for Zhao Xintong. Or you can always try and do it the Terence Crawford way, just get it on the decision for his name. But for now, he certainly finds himself in amongst the reds. The pink will go back on his spot, and we can all imagine John Higgins never missed the first pink, and he's still on the break of 28 points there. Ignore the 7 on the break, and one more red in towards the left corner. And also ignore the fact that by the time that John Higgins was actually on his first break, Zhao Xintong didn't have a point on his name. let's just take the last couple of misses out of the game and hopefully enjoy a brilliant end to the first one. And more beautiful action on the cue ball, positional play, and some brilliant pot success still to come in between the two. And for now, if we focus on John Higgins and his ability to try and win this frame from this visit. Now, he's got himself lined up in towards the red in the yellow pocket, and after that, probably has to go for a cheap color yet again here, with all the reds being spread out in towards the bulk area here. Higgins is now on 34 points, still only 75 points on the table, so all of a sudden you take 3 reds that are in open play, or somewhat close to it, and there's going to be a real challenge there for Zhao Xintong to try and get himself back in the opening frame. Higgins just looking to see if those 3 reds are going to be enough for him, looking at the scoreboard nervously. And for now, once again, a red in towards the green pocket, lining himself up for one of the ball colours potentially, but he decides to go for another approach and send the cue ball in towards the black here. Certainly got a lot of distance to try and reach the cue ball right now. And we'll ask for a rest and all sorts of extension now, as he pretty much has to try and catch the cue ball from the maximum reaching point that he was certainly available. So on the stretch now, having 1 foot touching the floor, which is a requirement for players when they take these shots on. And lovely shot there in the black. It was quite easy in terms of just getting 7 points on the board, but lovely little cue action yet again here from Higgins to get himself lined up on towards the left corner pocket. And once again, looking at the scoreboard. So this red is not going to be enough for him, but the next one might well be, with him being 45 points clear already. And depending on the colours that he will take on right now, which is going to be the black here, looks like the next red will become a frame ball here for John Higgins. For now, has to roll the black in towards the right corner. The natural angle on the cue ball that John finds himself with will lead the cue ball on towards the top part of the table and get himself lined up on red into the corner. But he decided to go for the one along the cushion, along the ball cushion here, which was a harder red to try and line himself with, but he managed to do that. So just roll this one in, get yourself 54 points clear, still have the yellow into its own spot, and certainly don't try and accelerate the red here, and he won't. So it's a nice shot there from Higgins, and it's a very nice break of just 34 points, but it looks like it's going to be the one that counts, with Higgins taking a safe approach and just rolling the blue in towards the left middle there. So 59 points clear, 51 on the table. Two snookers, not 2 sneakers. I don't think that's snooker shot there. 2 snookers needed for Zhao Xintong to get himself back in this frame and force the respot. Something that, give a little bit of a spoiler alert, I have seen today already in Sean Murphy against Scott Donaldson. You will be. I was about to put the frame towards John Higgins there, and I did think it was GG's number 1, but Zhao Xintong doesn't think that, and I'm surprised to see him off his chair there. He's 59 points behind, 51 on the table. It doesn't really strike me as a player that would try and find 2 snookers on, 3 reds right now, with 2 of them being in a really tough position to try and pot with the black here, so not too sure what that's all about, but I suppose it is his decision, and it's also a very short format. When you're up against John Higgins, you have to try and take your approach. And, you know, if I mention Scott Donaldson and Sean Murphy, Murphy was actually finding himself with the snooker, and he managed to get it with only blue, pink, and black on the table. So that actually resulted in him be 18 points behind, and as he cleared up the table, managed to get himself a respot, which ultimately got him the win in the frame. And only 1 frame later, he managed to book himself into the last 32. So just shows it's possible, but that was a single snooker, and even though that was on the blue, Murphy needed 5 points there on the foul shot. Xintong will need 8 points on the single foul shot, which of course is not possible, but he could still try and get himself a free ball situation and advantage to his name, but as I say, it's impossible to do that right now with 3 reds all being available to John Higgins. In fact, he's got 1 red now to try and roll in towards the middle, which he will. So the first frame that has gone the distance, says that he has took its time, more than half an hour since it has begun. It will certainly go the way of John Higgins now, and it is GG's now. So first frame to Higgins, and now looking forward to see the response there from Zhao Xintong. Higgins in the end, that 39 points of a break, as Higgins tried to go creative, very nice there. Sending the red off the yellow in towards the corner pocket. Nice shot selection there, but ultimately, the shot selection that will get him the first frame, and the break of 39 points, didn't look like it was much in terms of the points mounting, but still, it proved to be enough there, and John Higgins will be leading Zhao Xintong by 1 frame to 0. Still a reminder that we are going to the same format as the Home Nation series until the final, with the first to 4 being played until the quarterfinals. That will rise to best of 9, first to 5 there. And semi-finals will see that rise by 1 more frame, first to 6, best of 11. And the final is going to be played for the 3rd time this season, up to the first to 10 frames. Looking forward to that. Still, majority of the top seeds are still in the tournament. Of course, very sad that Ronnie O'Sullivan is not participating in this tournament yet again here, as he was withdrawn, as well as Wuhan Open and English Open earlier. Judd Trump has managed to beat Leon Crowley there, the young player from Ireland, which managed to forget his chalk as he was appearing on the table, but still managed to take the opening frame of Judd Trump, but that proved to be the maximum of what he could produce. And in the end, it will be the world number 1 to progress into the last 32. And Karen Wilson has actually found himself on the receiving end of Stan Moody yesterday. A little bit of a disappointing performance overall. Watched the game and was disappointment from Wilson's point of view. He's still not up to speed. Stan Moody is probably in the form of his life right now, but it wasn't great from Moody, but he got enough there in the end to get himself over the line with a scoreline of 4 frames to 2, and in the end, that's all it counts. Wilson just too wasteful on the chances that presented to himself, having nothing in terms of confidence and ability to string a couple of good breaks in succession there. So he is the world number 2 that is eliminated, but Mark Williams, John Higgins, Neil Robertson, Mark Selby and Mark Cullen are all still in action, as John Higgins is going to break off now for the frame number 2. Of course, for him to remain in action, make it 4 out of top 6 players still in the contention for the tournament, has to beat Zhao Xintong and convert the opening frame lead into something bigger, hopefully, for him. But for now, it's a decent break to start off. Not necessarily going to say that it's the best one that I've seen Higgins produce, but that will do him nicely at this moment in time. Send the cue ball up towards the bulk area yet again here. Uncle. Well, old uncle versus young man is a little bit harsh there. I mean, I'll never forget my grandfather actually calling him the Grandpa Higgins there, despite him being older than Higgins by quite some margin there. But I certainly think it is experience against youth. This is what I would say. And so far, it is experience that has managed to prevail in the opening frame. And can he develop on this now? He's got a red lined up into towards the left corner after not necessarily the best shot from Zhao Xintong previously. He missed one in the opening frame here. Is he going to miss another one? Yes, he will. Ultimately, is he going to give a chance away to the young man from China? Looks like he certainly will, as long as the red will pass the blue in towards the left middle. I think it will be very unfair to Zhao Xintong if it doesn't, but I don't think he actually does. So, I mean, if he gets away with this shot, he is probably the luckiest man in this venue at the Century Hall in Cheltenham. I think he will get away with this red. Fans are trying to see behind the red there, whether it passes the blue. But ultimately, it only matters what one man think about. Yeah, I think you can just squeeze the red past the blue there, but I don't think it's a shot that you can try and take on so early. But that's what I think. Xintong doesn't think that, and he'll try to roll the red in towards the middle, catching all of the jaw there and using as much of the pocket as is possible. In the end, that will do him nicely, because the red has actually dropped in there, and Xintong is back in the action yet again here. He's going to roll the blue in towards the same pocket and get himself lined up on one more red in towards either right corner or right middle. Got quite a nice selection of reds right now. And not necessarily too bad on the colours either. The pink can be his backup option, as the referee getting in front of John Higgins, and you could see just John trying to see what's happening on the table in behind the referee, and he takes a step to the table, and all of a sudden John Higgins can't see anything. But Xintong not necessarily seeing the best of his positional play, with him lining up on a shot on the pink that I don't think he would have been planning to do, trying to bridge over red. In the end, dealt with it nicely. But where's the pink going to finish right now? Certainly not going to go back on his spot here. Is he going to go right underneath it? And the question is he going to be possible there? Don't think he will be. And the referee just has to look and see whether he will go just underneath the red, or he has to make some more adjustments. So a little bit of a delay in the game. John Higgins stays in his seat, obviously, and Xintong is just wandering around the table to see what he's got available to him right now. And yeah, as I say, he's got a red lined up in towards the right corner or the right middle. He goes for the more difficult of the two. But in the end, once again, beautiful in terms of the positional play. Something that you can never criticize Xintong for, especially when he's on the form of his life. The Q action, they call him a cyclone for a reason, because it just makes it look so effortless. I mean, the UK Championship that he won, he managed to beat so many brilliant players there. How many deciders are there now in this tournament? I'll be honest, I've done my research on the previous one. It was 35 in the end, with the final being wrapped up nicely. But on this one, I can tell you there's been 5 already, but there's probably been a lot more than that. Because the 5 that I've seen have certainly lived up to all sorts of expectation. I think if I had to guess, if you count the qualifying rounds and you count the first round, some of the matches in the third round as well, probably say around 13, maybe more. Don't think there'll be less than that though. But as I say, I've seen 5, and there could have been a lot more than that. For now, we are looking to see whether he have one more in the match of Xintong against John Higgins. Some of the brilliant matchups already. Ali Carter has managed to progress into the last 32. You'll place the Ukrainian Yulian Boyko there, which himself managed to win 4 frames consecutively against Sam Craig and turn a 2-frame deficit into a 4-2 win there. Stan Moody, as I mentioned, managed to beat Karen Wilson and will face Ian Burns here. But for now is Xintong on the break, getting the most out of this black here and trying to get so much action on the cue ball that he actually got a great job of having a nice little angle of this red into the left middle, into the right middle, I beg your pardon. And into the same side of the table go the black here, but this time in towards the right corner pocket. Potentially will have a chance to bounce the cue ball into the clutch of reds and get himself freed up nicely, which he will. Lovely to see. Already 12 so far. Yeah, this will say 13 was a fair guess there, with so many matches being played earlier on there. But good start there. We're going to see if we actually will beat the previous achievement of 35 previously in the English Open, but I suppose it's always going to have a lot of deciders when it's such a short format. And for now, yet again, Xintong being on the red, on the black, on the red, on the black here, so very close to the frame ball area already. Hi, hello stuff, how are you doing? Thanks for joining in. I think it's the first time that I actually see you in the chat. But still, very welcome to be here, and very welcome to enjoy some great snooker right now after a little bit of a scrappy opening frame. Certainly has been nothing but scrappy in there. Second frame here. Will this break the English Open? I think it will. I think it will. And for the reason of, it is such a quick tournament. I mean, it started on the 22nd. It's going to finish on the 28th. So it's barely 7 days in there. And also, you're going to have fourth round and last 16 there played on the same day. So I'm not necessarily a fan of that. I think they should have done better in terms of organising this thing and give themselves a little bit of breathing space. You know, didn't really have to force international championship qualifiers either, with them having a couple of days of break. But yeah, as I say, it's a little bit mad to think that this is Wednesday and on Friday will be played sort of quarterfinals. Sunday is going to see the final here, 61 against 0. It is 68 against 0 right now, with the scoreline updating as soon as Zhao Xintong manages to put the red and the blacks on my screen. And already reaching 76 points, so way away from the Rainbow area. I don't think there was any doubt about it. Wow. Well, I mean, as I say, this is what we expect and this is what we want to see from Zhao Xintong, being on the break of 77 points. And GG's number 2, certainly. This is a lot better from Zhao Xintong as a response, and John Higgins has to see his lead evaporate into the air, as I think Zhao Xintong is going to be fuming on himself if he can't get a century break. Can he get through to the red in towards the right corner? Higgins still watching very, very carefully there, even though you'll obviously understand that there's no way coming back in this frame right now. With all the action and all the work that Zhao Xintong actually managed to produce in it. And gets a little clip on the pink, but in the end, I don't think that'll do any damage. One more red to go into the right corner. And if the black is going to be the colour to choose for Zhao Xintong, it will certainly be a century break. And a good response there to the break of 39. Very different circumstances in the opening and second frame. 92 against 0. You're trying to do scoreline for me. I mean, you're more than welcome to. Young man's eyes very sharp. I mean, talk about his vision is so brilliant. I mean, Ronnie O'Sullivan described him as probably the best and the closest to Stephen Hendry so earlier on in his career as we've ever seen. You know, he hasn't even put himself in the equation. And Zhao Xintong has just put a century break. Brilliant there. But his vision, I mean, talk about his vision. He can try and see shots 3 or 4 shots in advance. So you'll be on this red and you'll already be thinking, what is the color that he's going to play after the next red? He is brilliant in it. And another thing that will compliment him on is every single time he went into the reds at the World Championship and so far in the second frame as well, you just know that he's going to get a perfect split and he's going to line himself up perfectly on either color or the red that he's actually aiming for. So, I mean, his vision, his cue ball control, and his ability to withstand the pressure. I mean, when I was watching the semi-final against Ronnie, and you know, I was obviously chatting to relatives, what's going to happen here, and I was always saying to them, don't worry, Ronnie will win this one, because I said every single time that he'll get close to getting himself over the line. Of course, I didn't think it was going to be, you know, 17-7 scoreline. I think Ronnie was actually leading 4 frames to 2 there or something, but in the end, he managed to go on like lose 6-7 frames and get himself in a horrible spot for the 4th session. But yeah, but he just didn't care. Like, he just was playing like it was an exhibition shot there for him. Like, he wasn't facing the absolute legend, his idol, and he literally gave him a clap there, which, you know, it sort of reminded me of, see you later, thank you for your time. I know he wasn't meaning like that, but it was a bit like the end of an era. And I don't know why have I reset the score line here. And there we go. So a brilliant break there from Zhao Xintong of 133 points. He holds cue very lightly compared to others, lose grip. I'll be honest, that's sort of thing that I don't necessarily see there, and I don't really... I mean, I admire the knowledge and the understanding, but I don't really know how you can actually tell that from the camera angle, unless you've actually seen him say that. But I suppose it all comes down to the little factors like that, and so far it is Youth against experience, it is 1 frame each, and brilliant from second frame. A little bit less so in the frame number 1 there. Rick, I mean, you could have put a chat there, but you could have just put yourself blocked there, which exactly what I'll do. If you want to do a little bit of a idiotic comment like that, feel free to do that. You'll be blocked in no time by either me or moderator, and we'll say thank you very much. We're not going to have any more than that, because you are not going to be talked about it. Because if you think about, you know, the allegations that have gone on to Zhao Xintong, if you want to talk about it for the rest of his life, you can do that, but I don't think that's what we're here to do. As I say, he's allowed to compete. He's been stripped off of all the allegation after serving his ban, and when you talk about John Higgins, I mean, the fact that you actually mention his name in the same line as cheating is very, very, very sad to see. None more of that, and Alan Grip is so light and loose. Yes, I actually am aware of that, because when Stephen Hendry was analysing the game of Mark Allen, he actually mentioned that. When he changed his style, as I'm not too sure why we're having a break here of so long in the 3rd frame, didn't necessarily see any of the players to go for a bathroom break. And yeah, Anthony Kowalski, by the way, is losing to Mitchell Mann by 2 frames to 0. The very young man from Poland, and shout out Poland, by the way. I mean, in their academy, you've got Michael Subarchuk, you've got Anthony Kowalski, and I'm pretty sure there was a 3rd player that I actually forgot about. Baranowski, yes. Baranowski. I mean, the Snooker Academy for Poland is certainly doing wonders in terms of Europe, and mainland Europe here. As once again, we're up and running here in the 3rd frame, so after a little bit of a break, light is the way to go. Probably yes, but it depends. It just depends on what type of player you are, because I don't think light is the way to go for the older players. No disrespect, but you don't have so much control of your wrist there. When you place your hands on the cue, you need to make sure you get most out of it, and when you're not necessarily are in full control, I think you need to hold it a little bit tighter there, which, you know, I've tried to watch John Higgins there, and it was a brilliant shot of Lompot there, but I think he was really heavily with his backhand there, trying to apply all the action in terms of the topspin and getting himself lined up perfectly on his black in towards the right corner. So yet again, we'll try to use the topspin, and this is more like it. Just as I say that, I think he ran himself out of position here on this red. But in terms of, this is more like it, the attacking side of play. 1 shot, you're dead. And it's 8 points advantage on John Higgins. Although, as I say, I think he ran himself out of position slightly on this cue ball. He has to bridge over a black here to try and get the red in towards the right corner. And try and send the cue ball up the table here. I think still has to make a pot though. And the bulk colours will be very, very handy for him on the next shot. And brilliant once again here from John Higgins, but very different position to the one that Zhao Xintong had to face. Very much influenced by the fact that John Higgins was the player that gifted that chance of Zhao Xintong producing a break of 133. Taking a reckless red to an extent there. And when he bounced off the pocket, he bounced into the red, split those up nicely. And what followed up is history. Certainly a break of 133 there from Zhao Xintong. So once again, John Higgins just having a look there to see the reds in towards the right or left corner. I think he's got 3 of those right now. As I say, 2 in each corner, 1 in each corner, and then 1 more that I think will have to go into the right corner as well there. For now, a little bit of a straightforward cut there for him. He needs to land top side of the blue and doesn't really, so it's going to be making things awkward here for John Higgins. I think the way to go is try to roll the cue ball up towards the straight line there on the red and get himself lined up with the rest shot. And John Higgins actually going for this red right now there, taking extension just to see if he can reach it. Not often you see players, you know, going as far as taking extension on the shot they don't really have to play there. So it just shows how much invested he is in his frame. And of course it is a massive frame. Whoever goes 2-1 ahead is going to be either Higgins retaining momentum or Zhao Xintong winning 2 frames on the bounce. In such a short format could still be very, very important. And such a short format, by the way, means that we're going to have no intermission today. So even if one of those frames goes beyond an hour, as long as we're not in the curfew zone of the UK, we're going to be fine here. 19 points right now for John Higgins, making the most out of the position and the reds that he's got available to him. The black to roll in towards the left corner and get himself lined up on towards the red into the right corner there. Or you can try to send the cue ball into the reds. Depends on what he wants to do. I don't think he had an angle though on the black for a perfect split. So he'll set up for one more red in towards the right corner. Get himself 27 points clear and hopefully a lot of spinning action on the cue ball. Get himself into the red, split those up nicely and land on the colour. I mean, first 2 parts of the equation were completed, but not landing on the colour is going to be a little bit tricky for him right now. You can try and take the black. I think you can see enough of that in towards the right corner. Or can he just about get through the pink here into the right middle? I mean, he'll probably be frame over if he can because of the way the reds actually split up there for him. But it's a massive shot there and he can't afford to miss the pink or sort of cannon into the red first. But in the end, brilliant shot there from Higgins. Gets himself out of trouble. 33 points clear. I think the pink will go back on his spot this time around, as the referee will just check that as a fact and confirm the host idea. And Higgins once again will take a red along the cushion in towards the right corner. Just roll this one in, a little bit of backspin, get himself lined up on the black. Really nicely done. Would have been even nicer if he had an angle on this black though, but I suppose he can deal with having to screw heavily into the cue ball. Use the cushion to his advantage off the right hand side of the table and get himself lined up on one of those reds in towards the left middle. This time of asking yet again here. And as I say, this is more like it from both of the players. Zhao Xintong in the second frame. And this time, John Higgins providing all the entertainment, reaching, not sure why, okay, yeah, reaching the highest break there of his match with it being 41. So manages to get 2 points clear of the one that he produced that ultimately won in the opening frame. Nice fact there, thank you, appreciate that. And I haven't even paid you to say that, so that's a bonus, thank you very much. I like and subscribe. Stuff, you're a legend already. Very, very much appreciated there. And hopefully we'll be able to live up to expectation. But as I say, the snooker season is about to really kick off. We've got the Xi'an Grand Prix. Some people call it the China Grand Prix. Coming up very shortly. Northern Ireland Open is going to follow it up. And the International Championship is going to start with qualifiers straight after the British Open will actually end there. So for now, focus on John Higgins and his brilliant break. 47 points already, all of them coming on the same break. And 3 more reds available right now for Higgins. I think that will just about get him over the line in terms of the points that are going to be available there for Zhao Xintong. And the experience will be ahead again here. And this is why I think we could see a decider, because I could really, really heavily see them just trading a frame by frame. And, you know, if it will go down to a decider, both players would have had at least one of those going into this match, with the qualifying rounds not being straightforward for them. As I say, Higgins found himself with a 3-1 deficit against Mark Davis. Managed to climb back there. And Zhao Xintong found himself in a very tricky decider against Ashley Hugo. Yeah, managed to get on top of that. And yeah, just too many mistakes in the end by Ashley, leaving too many shots there open for Zhao Xintong. And I think it will go to the decider. To finish my thought, I think it will be the frame to lose for Higgins. But the good thing about a decider is anything can happen. go back to the decider of John Higgins against Liu Haotiang in last year's UK Championship was brilliant. It was very nervy there for Higgins fans, but he managed to get on top of that. You think about the brilliant World Championship, I think it was last 16 I should say. I don't think it was a quarterfinal, because it may have been a quarterfinal actually, against Mark Allen, to get himself into the next round, as he described it, the most nerve-wracking and the most tense decider he ever had to play in his career. And when a player like John Higgins says that, you certainly have to feel that this is something of a statement. Right here, right now, John Higgins has to find himself taking this green on in towards the green pocket and get himself lined up, hopefully on the frame ball. But with all the time he actually's taken, probably will have himself a little bit of distance there for the cue ball to try and cover. If he wants to send the red in towards the left corner, still 67 points clear right now. John Higgins still 67 on the table for Zhao Xintong to get himself back for a respot. But I think all hopes are going to disappear now for the man from China, because it will be a John Higgins show in the frame number 3. Don't think we're going to see any more of Zhao Xintong anyway, because it is 9 points too many for him to try and climb. 3 snookers, and if he can just roll this black in towards the corner, he'll certainly be away here. Has he got enough pace? He just about does. So certainly frame number 3 and GG's number 3 there for John Higgins. Yet again, being on the front foot right now and responding very nicely to the total clearance from Zhao Xintong in frame number 2. Can he make a century break potentially of his own? And he's still in the equation. Hopefully we'll get himself on the top side of the blue, which is not going to happen. So is it black? Is it brown for him to go for? Don't think he's got any more colours available to him. As I say, you can just try and roll the blue in towards the middle, but that's not going to get him on the red. Fading star versus rising star. Again, a bit cruel there on Higgins. I don't think he's a fading star. He's a legend of the game. Is a better statement for him, as he'll miss the brown, but ultimately get himself a frame on the board. And once again, it is John Higgins leading Zhao Xintong, this time by a scoreline of 2 frames to 1 there. I'm injured. I mean, unless you're Mason Mount, so I can't play... okay. I was going to say, I was wondering which kind of injury you had. I'm injured. That's an interesting statement to put out. You should call... If you were into football and not pool, you should try and call Chelsea or Man United. They'll certainly hire you. I've sprained my wrist. Ooh, it's not necessarily the joking matter then. Hope you recover soon, my friend. And yeah, as I say, if you want to be watching some of that here, we'll be here all tournaments until the final, because I'll try to be live action for that. Actually going to Cheltenham to see, hopefully, an interesting matchup. And you never know, maybe another decider there, with us seeing, what was it, Robertson against O'Sullivan, 10 frames to 9, brilliant decider in Saudi Arabia, Wuhan Open. Zhao against Gary Wilson, once again a brilliant decider, 10 frames to 9 there, in favour of the Chinese player. And, well, Zhou Yulong against Mark Allen, just last week there, the time that decider has actually gone against the Chinese player, and Mark Allen, with a beautiful comeback later in the match, yet again responded to a session comeback there from Zhou Yulong to get himself 5 frames in a row, 1. Thank you, I appreciate that, no worries. And yeah, as I say, recover and stay strong there. The referee will take the cue ball up towards players to break off yet again to get the 4th frame underway. And for now, as I say, Anthony Kowalski is now having a massive mountain ahead of him to climb, and as he's battling against Mitchell Mann, 3 frames to 0 in favour of the Englishman. Oliver Lyons is actually losing to Anthony McGill, 1 frame to 0. And Liam Davis against David Liley is winning by 1 frame to 0. So a little bit of action there, but not so many frames won there. As the only matches that we've seen 3 frames won is Mitchell Mann and John Higgins and Zhao Xintong doing that. with Anthony Kowalski yet to get himself on the board. As we're underway here. There's a break-off shot there from John Higgins. Doesn't necessarily do him a lot of justice. And he actually leaves him vulnerable. This is entertaining. This is what I'm saying. It's all about entertainment, but it's also all about performance. And this is what you want to see. I mean, I get a little bit of underdog story here and there, but when you've got such top players, as I say, the multiple world champion against the rising star, the current world champion, providing us all the entertainment for the snooker on the table, being very respectful towards each other, of course. And right now, Xintong has to, well, see if he can get through to this red in towards the right middle. And if he can't, he'll have to go for a plan B there and get himself, well, get the cube onto the cushion, you would have thought, and try catch a red. Very nice slide there from Xintong, but not enough pace. So 4 points once again go the way of John Higgins, something that we've seen in the opening frame. After Xintong actually had the first chance of either one of the two players in the opening frame to have a goal at the red into the left corner. Managed to get here, but had the cue ball disappear into the left middle as well. And that set off things there. Hopefully it won't be the same outcome right now for Xintong, as he can't afford to lose the frame and give John Higgins advantage of 3 frames to 1. Probably the last people on the tour that you want to actually do that, because when it comes to pressure and when it comes to getting over the line, there is probably no better player to call than John Higgins himself. Probably Stephen Hendry, you can make a case for, with him pulling out some of the brilliant comebacks. John Higgins will just roll the cue ball away from this red and get himself lined up on towards the ball cushion yet again. Nice shot there, as Xintong was actually able to get himself out of the little snooker on the second time of asking, and this time has got a lot of more vision, but once again the cue ball is going to be awkward on the ball cushion, so has to play this red with caution. Doesn't want to catch yellow though, full ball, and he does do that, so inevitably will give a consideration shot away to John Higgins to try and take on into the left corner. I think he'll probably say, not for me this time around, because he is 2 frames ahead to 1, and once again he'll go for a developmental shot, send the Reds away from the pack there, and in fact only one of them has gone away from the pack, but has landed pretty much on the right side cushion, so not doing a lot of good there for himself. How to measure 2 cushion escape? It is difficult, I will say that. Good point. The way you have to do it, you have to realize, obviously when you do it in practice, you need to practice with different force. Because if you're just rolling up to the red, it's not going to be easy for you, and it's going to have a very different trajectory if you are playing that with a lot of power. Something that I actually couldn't get my head around for quite a while there when playing snooker myself. But it's a brilliant skill for you to have, which is why players like Ronnie O'Sullivan actually struggle with that. And what a shot Xintong has actually found there. Brilliant plans. The position of the cue ball right on the black obviously means that he was planning to go for the shot. And look at this shot. I mean, to judge the cannon off the cue ball of 2 reds that were in his way, he's just supreme and sublime there. Get himself right in amongst the reds. And, well, could we see another brilliant break now, this time from Xintong? But, yeah, the straightforward answer how to measure 2 cushion escape is get a ruler and spend about half an hour there. You can try and do that, but that's going to take an awful lot of time there. And what a mistake that is from Xintong. Just as I was complimenting his positional play, he lined himself up for a red that he took for granted along the cushion. And, oh boy, he would regret that if John Higgins will go on to win the frame from this visitor to the table. As I say, it's nice when you're making a break of 133, but it's not so much nice when you're making so costly mistakes there. And Xintong can get himself comfortable in his chair because, well, I don't want to make it a commentator's curse, but it says that he can't see John Higgins making those types of mistakes. And this is where experience can become very, very important for you. Right now, Higgins is leading Xintong by 12 points to 8 there. And once again, just play through this red, get himself lined up on one more black here. And I mean, he'll be frustrated even more with himself, Zhao Xintong, because of the fact that he's not even lost himself a chance to win a frame in a position that, you know what, to be honest with you, I will say right now, I think he would have made this one stick had he got further into the break with his positional control being so good there. And I'll be honest, it's not like you need anything else here. So many reds available to you. I mean, you could say 4 or 5 right now. And that's after John Higgins accumulating 17 points on the break here. One more black to go into the right corner. Get himself lined up on towards the top part of the table for a shot into the left middle here. Certainly get himself potentially lined up for a frame win. Higgins is now leading by 28 points to 8. And of course, ultimately has got a very important frame cushion that he's got to his name for good measure. So he's just trying to see if he should take this red into the left middle. And if he doesn't, you'll have a backup option of trying to go along the cushion here. Something that is actually quite a tricky shot for you to judge the cue ball control. So you'll go for the red into the left middle, use the ball cushion very, very nicely. In fact, you use it perfectly. Line himself up very nicely for the green shot. And WST Plays is showing the replay of that shot from Zhao Xintong. As I say, never take easy shots for granted and never take your eye off the pot. No matter how much confidence you feel in yourself, no matter how many frames you won, especially at the stage of, 2 frames behind to 1, and you're about to make it 3-1 gap, you would have thought, with still no Higgins, no signs of John Higgins slowing down, getting himself eliminating one red by 1. And a very surprising thing I will say though, is 78 votes in, we only have 51% advantage to John Higgins. As I say, I never understood the fact that he was a heavy underdog going into this match. As I say, why? World number 6, you could say, oh yeah, Zhao Xintong won a world championship. Yeah, but that was last season. I mean, he's nowhere near that form in this season. I mean, he needs deciders against Ashley Hugo. But I suppose that's probably a bad reference because John Higgins actually needed a decider himself. But, John Higgins managed to get himself into the quarterfinal of Wuhan Open. Zhao Xintong hasn't been anywhere near the quarterfinal zone. And John Higgins just taking out the reds one by one, probably asking the referee to clear the cue ball. So a little bit of a delay. It's not going to take too much time though, and Higgins will be up and running yet again here. And let's see what is going to be available after this red though for him. He can try and go for the black, but what I mean is he going to free up more reds with the cue ball control? Don't think he will. We'll just push one of those in even deeper in the back, but ultimately I think those points are going to start to mount now for Zhao Xintong and are going to start to very much count here, because this black will put him 48 points clear with I think 83 on the table. So you take those 2 reds out of the game, use 2 blacks to your name, and I think you only need 1 more red there along the cushion if you will. So if you get 16 points more onto John Higgins' tally, you'll certainly be very close. I think you'll need 1 more red there because it'll be 67 points on the table. I think you'll be away by 62 or so. So 4 more shots in between John Higgins and claiming the win in the 4th frame and setting himself up very nicely for a spot in the 4th round after completing the qualifier and the round 2 as well. He's now found himself in a clash of very much anticipated clash of styles here. John Higgins against Zhao Xintong, but looking like he only is going to be 1 frame away from making it experience over youth. But for now, concentrate on the rest shot in towards the left corner, get himself lined up for the black there with the right sort of angle, and all of a sudden you would feel like he will be away here comfortably. For now, John Higgins will take his time on this rest shot and make sure he's got everything he needs as the tools for the next black, which is going to be very important there. Probably just stun the cue ball there. Get himself on a little bit of an angle. So now 57 points clear. So the black will put him 64 points clear right now. And the red will certainly ensure that this is the last that we've seen of Zhao Xintong, which will, of course, would mean that that mistake has officially cost him the frame there. Still 2 shots away from doing that. And I think the work from Higgins will be cut out shortly if he's got a red in towards the left corner to try and play for. And if he hasn't, you'll go for a plan B option and either go into the reds or have one lined up along the cushion in towards the right corner. He's gone from plan A though. He's gone for the reds and has now freed himself up very nicely for a frame ball in towards the left corner. Once that disappears, and that is the case, it will be GG's number 4 and frame 1 for John Higgins, and he will be. So brilliant performance from John Higgins. He's now 65 points clear, 59 on the table, 2 snookers needed, but there's no real sign of John Higgins slowing down. And will get the highest break of the match for himself very shortly. Only needs a red and a colour to do that. And looks like he will be black here. So anticipate a century break. As I say, 3 reds are in brilliant position. 1 more quite close to the cushion there, but after John Higgins didn't manage to produce a century break in frame number 3, certainly expect him to break the case and make it a break of 100 plus points in frame number 4. So runs a little bit awkwardly on this red though. This might be a short affair. I mean, not necessarily, because it has been a very long opening frame, but ever since, it has been John Higgins after the brilliant clearance there from Zhao Xintong in the second frame. It is now 2 frames on the bounce from the Wizard of Wishall. He's now only 1 frame away from booking himself into the last 16. Yeah, took a little bit of hesitation simply because of the format, and literally right now we've got matches of last 64 being played, but this one is last 32, so it's a little bit weird there. Old Fox versus Young Hound. Well, I mean, probably a bit more respectful, but I suppose. Next decider, if you ask me to predict one, I think it will be Mark Allen against Mark Williams, because I think you are a fool if you're not predicting Mark Allen to have a decider against the top seed. I mean, if you look at his campaign at English Open, Ding Junhui, Jack Jones, Stuart Bingham, Watchalong are only some of the names that I mentioned, and that was last week. I mean, he managed to defeat Zhong Zhong there in the opening round in the qualifier by 4 frames to 1. But yeah, I would say, if you want me to predict next decider, it is going to be Mark Allen against Mark Williams. But if you're asking me if we're going to see a decider in this match, I don't think that'll happen. I think Higgins will be able to take it away with a scoreline of 4 frames to 1 or 4 frames to 2. I'll be honest, this is one of those times that I actually forgot the scoreline that I went for. I think I've gone for Zhao Xintong to take it away on the decider there, so I'm not looking too good on that. But as I say, this is why you probably should never do decider and prediction on the such lower rounds, because you never get those right, and you just expose yourself with a little bit of lack of knowledge there. But certainly right now, it is going to be Zhao Xintong to start off a frame that is crucial for him to stay in this campaign. For now, though, it is John Higgins leading the Chinese start by 3 frames to 1. This still could be the last frame of the encounter, and we could still finish this match below the 90-minute mark. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Even though it is the 3rd round, we've seen 50 people watching pretty much on the consistent level. And as I say, more to come with level 3, round 3 continuing. with the clash of Sean Murphy against Neil Robertson tomorrow. Just looking to see which time is that going to play. Is that going to be played, the match? But for now it is John Higgins to try and go for the red in towards the right corner. Pretty much the carbon copy of the red that he managed to roll in frame number 3 and get himself a 2-1 lead after that break. But right now it is Zhao Xintong that will have a safety shot to try and play. Send the cue ball in towards the top part of the table and get himself lined up safe in between or in behind one of those colours on the far end of the table. So gets one more red in the open position. So I think inevitably what you think about Zhao Xintong, he will be trying to be on the front foot yet again. I think he will go for those risky shots himself and not wait for the chance, a clear-cut chance that John Higgins will present ahead of him. For now, he still has to do something about the lead that John Higgins has got ahead of him. And once again, John Higgins potentially lined up a red in towards the right corner pocket. Don't think he'll go for it though, as he goes for a safety shot approach. And just switching the run of play, sending the cue ball back down the table. Hi again. Hello. Looks like you've been away. And now you're back here. And yeah, as I say, very much would expect this to be, if not the last frame, then the penultimate one. I think when you're up against John Higgins, you can't give him a 2-frame cushion and only being one away from the win in this match. I think he will take it, if not the first time of asking, then certainly the second time. And if we will go to the decider, no matter how much form Zhao Xintong will actually have to his name, still would fancy the wizard to try and do his magic, man. For now, it is John Higgins just having a little bit of evaluation to see what this red trajectory is going to be. I don't think you can see enough of it to try and set it in towards the right middle. But playing through the cue ball and getting himself lined up on the black ball cushion, I think it certainly is an option 1. The option 2 is just try to send the cue ball away from the bunch here and go heavily with a contact style. I think that's exactly what John Higgins has tried to do, but I think when I mentioned heavy contact, I didn't mean send the cue ball pretty much into the middle of the D here. So give a chance away to Zhao Xintong, but ultimately, has he got any colours to try and line himself up after the red? Of course, if he hasn't, that makes the shot pretty much pointless for him to try and take on. So you'll go for the red above the blue line. This is risky because he's certainly trying to pot this one, and he will pot it. So no matter how risky it was, as I say, if you're Zhao Xintong, you will not change your style of play because it's a style that has made you a world champion last season, and it's the one that got him the brilliant pot in the right corner this time around. The blue into the right middle will follow shortly, and the blue ball will disappear off the table and be re-established back on the table from the referee. So this time, I think Zhao Xintong will have a chance to play through the cue ball and get himself lined up in and around black spot. I think that'll certainly play to his strength there, as he now got 7 points on the board already. So leading John Higgins so far in the 5th frame, and the frame that he has to win to still keep himself in the equation for the round 4 spot. And for now, nice little cue action there. A lot of it, in fact, to get himself lined up into one more red in the same corner pocket. It'd be in the right-hand side. And I think when that red is disappearing, when that red will disappear, you'll have the black to play in the opposite side of the table. Lines up wonderfully on this one. Still 51% to John Higgins. Just shows how many people actually value Zhao Xintong. And great to see that. You know, when you've got two people being against each other, you know, even though Higgins has got a 3-1 cushion to his name, it could still be made 3-2 cushion very shortly, with Zhao Xintong being at his prime position, it being the black spot. I mean, the amount of points he managed to accumulate in and around the black spot is probably going to top up their Mark Selby's record from last season in the World Championship alone there. because every single time he was facing someone from Leicester to likes of Williams in the final, it looks like you let him in to the black spot and you never see the end of a frame in your favour, because he was just so ruthless. He was still making mistakes, inevitably, you're going to have that, but the amount of points he accumulated and he managed to get himself ahead of his opponents by was just incredible and staggering to watch there. It's almost like you couldn't take your eye off the man, that well he was playing. But for now, Xintong has to roll this red in towards the right middle, get himself lined up on the blue here, so leaving his prime spot potentially, and using his side cushion to his advantage. So in terms of the reds now, the colours, all 6 of them being on their spots, the pink as usual is covered up by the reds, so 5 of the reds are available. And for now, Xintong has to just use the cue ball to his advantage, play through the blue ball right now, get himself lined up on the red in towards the right middle or the right corner pocket, whichever one he actually prefers to go for. And yes, again, find himself in a brilliant position. As I say, still the likes of Watchalong, Neil Robertson, Mark Williams, Sean Murphy, Mark Selby, Mark Allen are all participating in the tournament alongside Watchalong, the world number 1. Only Karen Wilson and Ronnie O'Sullivan are routes as the top sort of 6 seeds there. Still, I'll be honest with you, I'm not necessarily seeing anything of Ding Zhao in these tournaments, so I'm not sure if he managed to lose out on qualifiers earlier or I've just missed his name in the list. But so far, certainly not going to miss that shot and mention and give him a massive shout out there from Xintong, because that was a thing of absolute beauty. Someone asked me before, how do you judge a 2-cushion snooker escape? Well, how do you judge a beauty like this off the blue ball, in towards the left hand side of the table, off the black cushion and into the reds, to get himself a perfect split there? Have a little look here. So much topspin and so much power, but yet so much accuracy and precision play at its finest from Xintong. Gets himself 57 points clear with still 83 on the table, but surely now a matter of time until we'll become a 3-2 lead, still in favour of John Higgins, but Xintong making the first part of the play in his favour after facing a little bit of an ultimate comeback from John Higgins there. It's not over the line just yet though, and with me seeing that red contact, don't think that's gone to plan, but he still has got a red to get himself out of trouble in the either left corner or left middle right now. I think it's entirely up to him which shot he actually prefers to go for. He went for the left corner and he's put himself within a touching distance of a frame ball. In fact, whatever colour he tries to pot right now, and he actually does manage to make it, he will become his frame ball. And he's done that. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not necessarily a fan of him taking that blue into yellow pocket with such power. Could have stayed out there, blue, but in the end he didn't. And fortune favours the brave yet again here, with Xintong being one of the bravest people that you can actually see here with the style of play that he performs. And sort of realising that it is going to be a little bit painful at times, but more times than not, it will bring the benefit to his game. And once again, the frame is over. Are we going to see the second century break, though? After John Higgins had 2 of his attempts cut short there, stopping on, what was it, 76 and 82 points. These frames are flying. This is what I'm saying. This is what I expected to see ever since the opening frame, which is why I was so excited to do this match, and which is why I am actually looking forward to Neil Robertson against Sean Murphy tomorrow, because I think the match will be played in a very similar manner, and it's such a joy to watch 2 players just being on the front foot all the time, taking the aggressive approach, and when the chance will come to them, they will try to utilize it. And well, you also have to ask Xintong, had he not missed the red into the left corner on the previous frame, he would have been going into the 6th frame with him actually being only 1 frame away there from victory. But shoulda, woulda, coulda, it's not going to matter for him now, as he should get his head down and try and grind out 1 more century and 2 more frame wins for his name until he can actually be producing a brilliant comeback against John Higgins in such a short format. As for now, he'll roll a red in towards the left corner, so certainly get that trauma out of the way. And get himself lined up with the black in towards the right corner for a century break number 2. Yet again, brilliant from Zhao Xintong. Could still try and make it 1 or 2 points higher of a break if he is to produce total clearance and get himself lined up on either pink or black here. He's managed to get the red in, but I think he's then landed pretty straight on his black. And I think he's got the angle though to get the cue ball in towards the yellow spot. And yet again, this is a perfect example of how someone like Zhao Xintong just makes it look so easy and so effortless. Right now being, just as I say that, definition of a commentator's curse there. A break of 110. And let's see. Like a dog. I think he means like a sportsman there from the sporting point of view. But because he is very much the rising star of snooker, as he is considered in China and in the world. And a brilliant shot once again there to get himself out of trouble. I will be honest, I was reading the chat, so how on earth has he managed to get that green in towards the right corner? If someone is on the delay, can someone just tell me? Because I was reading the chat at probably the worst possible time. It looked like he snookered himself on the green, but he still managed to produce a wonderful clearance of 135 points. Brilliant stuff there from Zhao Xintong, and the 2 frames that he actually managed to win, in total he scored 268 points, all of those coming on just 2 breaks. Brilliant stuff from Zhao Xintong, but he needs to do better in terms of yellow. Did he actually? Oh god, I mean, what a player he is, the entertainer. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like, I nearly took my eye off it because I thought there's no way he's actually getting himself further than a break of 110, but I'll have to watch them back on the highlights. Brilliant there from Zhao Xintong to produce 135 of break. It might still be the highest that we've seen in the entire tournament. I'll be honest, we certainly haven't seen a 147 that I heard of. So 135 could be a shout out there for the highest break of the tournament campaign, but it's still being such an early stage to it. And well, let's see if the stage is going to be set there for Zhao Xintong, or is John Higgins going to find himself one more frame? As I say, is all he needs to get himself lined up into the last 16, sorry. As Anthony Kowalski is on the verge of claiming the second frame in the row against Mitchell Mann, with him still trailing by a single frame at that point. Oliver Lyons is losing to Anthony McGill by 3 frames to 0. And Liam Davies is getting the best of David Liley there. I'm not sure it's Liley, I think it's Lilly. David Lilly there, with the teenager having a lead of 2 frames to 1 there. So still, neither of the matches of the 7 o'clock session are over. Of course, we still have some more of those lined up into the 9 o'clock we go. Let me just check which one of those is actually going to do. So, yeah, Barry Hawkins against Jack Jones is probably the only one that you could watch out for. And Zach Doherty, Lewis Healthcore, Stan Moody against Ian Burns, Naponsan Kam against Shang Bin Yu there. So, not necessarily the best of the top 32 players, but certainly the people that are going to be risking it all to get themselves further into the tournament. And as I say, just a matter of time until 5th frame will be resolved in the clash of Anthony Kowalski and Mitchell Mann. Anthony McGill has got himself a very healthy lead against Oliver Lyons, as WST Play just emphasizes on all the action that we're having ahead of ourselves. Certainly, brilliant snooker played, and hopefully no sign of complaints that we've seen last year or at the English Open, with a famous statement by Mark Cullen after he was knocked out there last year at the British Open was the table is horrible and it has to be burnt. Whether it was burnt or not, certainly the World Snooker Association has issued him a warning after that statement, saying that It's very unprofessional for someone like him to be saying that of the staff that are operating in it. And in the end, Alan had to be forced into an apology statement, which certainly don't think we're going to see the second time of asking here from Mark Allen. As Zhao Xintong is looking to have another red lined up in towards the right corner. He'll miss it. Could have floated into the green pocket had he not caught the jaw of the pocket into the middle. But I think John Higgins will not really have any more brilliant and easy shot selection to his name. Because right now, the only red that he can try and play for is not visible to him into the left corner. So, lovely shot in terms of getting the cue ball on towards the black colours, the ball colours, not black colours, lined up there from Zhao Xintong, but missing the pot and ultimately giving away as a chance now for John Higgins of a brilliant safety shot there, which he manages to produce, gets himself out of danger zone, and once again, Zhao Xintong has to find himself going for a safety, just scraping the left-hand side of one of those reds available into the left corner. So just try and play an easy safety shot there. Not get himself into trouble, which, of course, remember, he can't afford to do. And he can produce, breaks of 147 every single time of asking. But if he manages to do that only on 2 of the 5 opening frames, he'll still leave John Higgins with only needing 1 more frame. And that 1 frame could come at a single visit to the table, as we've already seen from Higgins. The first frame was a little bit scrappy. In the end, the highest break of 39 was produced by Higgins, and he managed to get himself on the board. Brilliant response at that time by Zhao Xintong, get himself a break of 133 on the board. And Higgins eliminating any sort of threat in frames 3 and 4, producing breaks of 76 and 82 to his name. Until Zhao Xintong once again certainly found his power on the cue ball and produced a brilliant century break of 135 points. And yet again, we are seeing a brilliant long shot there from Zhao Xintong. It looked like it was going to be a brilliant safety there from Higgins, but yet again, he just finds the room there to send the cue ball on towards the lower part of the table and get himself started very, very nicely indeed. Has got a blue right now in towards the left middle. Has to make this one stick. Has to miss all the reds and get himself lined up perfectly onto the right hand side of the table yet again here. And 6 points ahead. Well, it was 133. It was 135. Could we see a 137? Certainly not going to be a 147 now, with Zhao Xintong using the blue at least on one of those occasions. But once again, being in and around his perfect spot there, with it being the highest value color of the black. But I think he's got himself into a little bit of danger zone and in a little bit of trouble, because how on earth is he going to have his next shot lined up onto the right corner of the table? Basically, the black would only go into the right corner, but he basically finds himself also on a shot that he can't deep screw into the cue ball because he can't get past the reds here. So you'll probably have to force an angle to try and get himself lined up for the blue in towards the left middle. And 50 points on the board already. Still a lot more reds for him to try and exploit. And focus on what's ahead of you is probably the small talk that he'd give himself. But this is a waste of a chance. As I say, this is an absolute waste of a chance. I've been praising his positional game and, just how little flaws he has in this aspect of the game. But what a mistake that is. He takes the blue on, but he catches the brown really heavily. And it looks like he will be the end of a break. And this is what it started with. Getting himself lined up on that red in towards the right corner, which I said, can't really see him get himself out of trouble. And that time of asking. And once again, needs a good safety shot there to come to his rescue, and does it. Because if he's left the red into the left corner for John Higgins, this is a chance that should never be on there for the Wizard. And can he produce a little bit of a magic now? All he needs is one break. which is not going to be easy though. Once again, pink is covered up by the reds, and Zhao Xintong has to just wait patiently in his chair. And John Higgins will send this red towards the left corner. I think he's gone for another shot selection there. Is he going to reach? Yes, he will. Is he going to drop? The answer is the same there. But unfortunately, he's not going to land himself on the colour. Probably deserved there. And in terms of what can he do from this shot, he can try and take the green in towards the left middle, or he can try to roll the cue ball in behind the brown. I think either one of those two options will get himself nicely on the front foot there, but not necessarily the shot selection that you'd have liked to see himself ended up on, and ended up with here after the brilliant safety shot that he's managed to play. Get the red in towards the left corner and sort of land himself perfectly for a positional shot that could have been taking him into the high value break, but instead it's just 1 point scored, and the turn will go back to Zhao Xintong here. Has to be careful not to get into the pink, but ultimately hopefully didn't get too much into the reds and give away a chance now to John Higgins. Seems to walk away pretty quickly though, with that not necessarily being a good sign. And Higgins has got a shot very similar to the one he actually just played with the safety side of things in terms of the cut in towards the left corner, but ultimately different in terms of the reach that he has to do it with. A rest and an extension on the cue. And we'll just see if he manages to get himself out of trouble and send the cue ball up the table yet again, avoid the kiss on the reds, and finally make it the break that he counts for him to get himself over the line against Zhao Xintong. I think much to the delight of the crowd, of course John Higgins being part of the class of 92 there, and very much the fan favourite, you would have thought, especially at the British venue like Cheltenham. And it's a brilliant shot in terms of getting the red, and this time with the cue ball catching blue full ball, he actually plays into John Higgins' hands beautifully, gets himself a shot selection of either a blue or green to try and play, and get himself lined up onto the red, into the left corner. Only 18 points behind, but ultimately only 107 of those on the table. So a lot of reds taken out already. Not so many points scored though by either one of those two players. And could that mistake from Zhao Xintong ultimately cost him the frame of the match here? We're about to find out, as it's time for a little bit of John Higgins' show. This is an important shot though from the rest. Certainly he chooses to go for the blue in towards the yellow corner, but the angle on the cue ball is always going to be against John Higgins, and he needs to make sure the distance that the cue ball travels is going to be under control there. But what a miss this is. I mean, I didn't actually consider that the blue was missable, but it certainly was, and the proof is on the screen there, because that is a miss and a half there by John Higgins. Get himself lined up on a plant there, not necessarily perfect position on the red either, but ultimately the chance once again given away to Zhao Xintong here. So he's got potential black ball plant there that he can try and push another red into. Surely he's not going for that. I mean, the cue ball will go safe, but you don't want the red to stay over the pocket, and he will. I'm very surprised to see that shot selection there from Xintong. The only thing that actually comes to his rescue is the fact that the black is in a very difficult position for either Higgins or Zhao to try and play for. The pink is out of position, the blue is out of position, the yellow is out of position. So really, it is only the green and the black that you can try and go for, but the positional shot on the black has to be sublime and perfect. Let's see just how much power John Higgins will put into this shot. Surely has to play for the green there. No, he won't. He will play for the black here. Is he going to make this red? Just about will. Can he see the black? Don't think he can. So, as he has a very fast walking pace there onto the table, doesn't even look at the black, and just has a look of which colour is he actually going to play a safety shot from. Surely he's going to have to do that of yellow or blue to get one of those two into the action. Play a potential cross double on the yellow Obviously no intent of potting it. And send the cue ball up towards the green pocket. Nice shot there from Higgins. And once again, as we eliminate more and more reds, only 99 of those remaining in terms of points. So we already had 6 reds eliminated, only 9 of them remaining on the table. 3 underneath the pink, 3 in open play, and 3 underneath the black spot on the black ball cushion. But certainly, 1 in the open play is going to be taken here by Zhao Xintong, and wow. I mean, with the way that red has stayed out, I don't think I've seen that for a very, very long time. He's played this one with little power, but yeah, it's just such a weird thing for him. I mean, the bounce on the jaws of the pocket was super weird, but the fact that it's gone into the jaws of so many times there, it was almost like he's rolled in the pocket 5 times or so. And in the end, it is John Higgins. This is going to be a long one. I don't think he will be, with the John Higgins being the man on the charge. I think he'll end this frame very, very shortly if he gets himself in a nice position in the next red. The black is certainly in. I don't think you will need those 2 reds onto the black ball cushion. So this could end very, very shortly if John Higgins makes the most out of the 6 reds on the table. That will put him 48 points on the board. That will be 39 points clear. So maybe not so much, but as I say, if he gets nicely on this black, you'll be well away into the match winning zone. And this is what I mean about Zhao Xintong really, throughout this match, having one significant error. I think the long shot that he just missed is understandable, with him trailing by 3 frames to 2. But the point and the frame, as John Higgins has got a brilliant shot there to split out the reds, certainly put himself into the prime position to clinch this frame and match here. But yeah, the frame, I think it was frame number 3. Zhao Xintong could have gone for 2 frames on the bounce and get himself 2-1 clear of John Higgins. Ultimately, missed a red into the left corner and got himself into all sorts of trouble there. And yeah, John Higgins went to go on a break of 76 points, and we haven't seen any more of Zhao Xintong in that frame. Could have been a very different story. Could have been leading himself by 3 frames to 2. Instead, it is Higgins with only needing 1 more frame. And certainly looking like he is about to get this frame if he makes the most out of the position he's got ahead of himself. 4 more reds in perfect position and perfect condition, with 2 more of those landing in a slightly more compromised position there underneath the black spot. But I think certainly you can try and see the cue ball cannon into one of those reds and have one lined up as your frame ball option into the right or left corner. But it's something for John Higgins to try and consider later on. For now, you'll push one of those reds towards the black cushion, get himself lined up on the black nicely into the right corner. So yet again, push through the cue ball, get himself lined up on the red that he's just pushed towards the corner pocket, and hopefully take it from there. But getting very close to the cue ball and actually potentially losing control of the cue ball. So only a centimeter safe there. In the end, just roll the red once again in towards the left corner, get himself lined up on the black in towards the right corner. Right now finds himself 15 points clear. The black will make that 22 points. And the reds will certainly make that count towards the gap that John Higgins already has ahead of himself, leading Zhao Xintong quite healthy into this frame number 6. Still 59 points on the table though. And with the way the colours are spread out, you certainly would expect Zhao Xintong to give it a chance should he be 1 frame short or so, one snooker short or so. That split was beautiful. It was. Certainly was there from Higgins, but this is what he can do. This is what he does when he gets a position like that, and he takes it from 6 out of 10 to 8 out of 10 in a single shot manner there. Something that Zhao Xintong is actually more than capable of doing, but ultimately it looks like it will come down to that lonely mistake in frame number 3 from Zhao Xintong to cost him very, very dearly indeed. Now behind by 30 points. As I say, it all comes down to the next shot on the black here. and trying to free up one of those reds, or potentially trying to land on either of them. But John Higgins won't be happy with himself, and you can see that on his face, because he had a chance there to go into the reds. I don't think he's going to do that now, and just try and play through this black. No real chance to get any traction on the cue ball unless you try to do it off the cushion, which is something that he's tried to do, and it's a brilliant effort there. I thought he wasn't really having the angle, and this is the question now. Can he make this red stick there? That will put him 39 points clear with only 35 on the table. And with a high value colour, they'll take it to 3 snookers required there from Zhao Xintong. So it's all about this red to go in towards the left corner. Is he going to make this one? No, he won't. And all of a sudden, that turns the frame on its head. As long as Zhao Xintong will see that red, which actually don't think is as straightforward as he might have seen. And he was very quick off his chair. But it looks like you can't actually see this red. Surely you just have to screw and swerve around the black here. But that leaves him vulnerable in terms of the control on the black here. But he missed the red altogether. Didn't think it was possible. And in the end, it looks like it's a very cruel lock here from Zhao Xintong. He could have been well away and could have had a chance at the clearance. Instead, it is John Higgins with attempt number 2 of the frame ball. Roll this one in, don't make the same mistake, and have yourself lined up on the black in towards the left corner to surely make sure that this is frame and match to you. Thank you very much for 117 people watching. This is round 3, remember. Not quite GG's, I would say. Still 1 snooker zone. I think you will come back there, Zhao Xintong, but if the black will go through, which it will, I mean, that certainly is GG's. And well called there, Gate Resha, because we are now certainly congratulating John Higgins on a brilliant performance. And right now, he will be through to the last 16. Still yet to find out who is going to be his opponent, with the draw only being made to a single round. But John Higgins certainly can be quite proud of what he's managed to produce. I don't think we'll see Zhao Xintong coming back to the table. And he will. So, a bit too early there. But, as I say, I think it is GG's. He now actually finds himself snookered as well. Hard break for Zhao. I mean, he probably... Yeah, but I don't think it's a hard break. It's the 3rd round. Nah, it's not a hard break yet. I think when he's such a young world champion, I think he certainly will have to face some of the hard breaks later in his career. But, as I say, when you're world number 11, when you're current world champion, you can get through that. Especially to such a great player of John Higgins' caliber here. And, well, the snooker battle will continue for at least a couple of more shots. John Higgins now has got a straightforward safety that he could try and play on this red. Or just sort of try and aim it towards the cushion and towards the right corner. Make Zhao Xintong take the red out of the equation. And it looks like he will do that because the red has gone very close to the right corner pocket. So all about getting this red into the right corner right now, which would have been the target for John Higgins as well, because that eliminates the free ball chance that Zhao Xintong could have got on the red, which, you know, you never know. Could get yourself up to 8 more free points there and get 2 snooker zone onto a single snooker zone here. But he managed to actually get the cue ball somewhat safe and get the red out of the pocket there. The problem is, of course, he still hasn't snookered John Higgins. And the battle will remain very much John Higgins as the captain of this ship and still in the driver's seat, but not yet over the line. And he's got a couple of more corners to the finish line. And Zhao Xintong can just, you know, sort of put the white flag out and throw the towel on the table. Funny story, actually. I was seeing the clip of Michael Holt against Mark Selby earlier in the season, where he literally had Holt concede the frame whilst throwing the towel on the table. It was actually very funny to see, and Selby seeing this funny side of it as well. And Michael Holt is such a character, though. He was so So nice and so refreshing to see him in the quarterfinal of UK Championship last year. Ultimately losing to Karen Wilson, but still putting on a great show for the fans here. As John Higgins one more time to try to roll the red in towards the corner, and it is certainly now GG's, because it is John Higgins into last 32, and the round 4 he will go. Very nicely done here, as he gets the pink in as well, and it certainly is frame and match for John Higgins, really doing all the damage earlier on with that 3-1 gap. As I say, it was no way John Higgins is losing that gap, especially when he's actually playing quite well there. And, apart from the two brilliant breaks of 133 and 135 from Zhao Xintong, we haven't seen enough of him, and we haven't seen enough of his clinical play, his positional play, and ultimately that mistake. Rolling the red in towards the left corner in frame number 3. Looks like it will be the one that costs him a lot of points and a lot of frames. And a little bit of ranking points as well. But so far, John Higgins is putting up an absolute show of a brilliant total clearance. As we're now seeing John Higgins try and go for the rest shot on towards the pink here. So send the cue ball into the black, potentially double this one. Very close that, but it's not going to make it. In the end, it's not going to matter because it's a brilliant performance all in all from John Higgins. He waves to the crowd, he gives thumbs up to everyone, and he will be delighted with himself as he walks away with a smile on his face. It is John Higgins 4, Zhao Xintong 2. Thank you very much for everyone joining in. Third round, and we're already getting more than 100 people watching. Legends, you all. Feel free to check out the round 3 battle continue and resume tomorrow. Still, Sean Murphy against Neil Robertson, Mark Allen against Mark Williams. We'll definitely do one of those matches. Expect to see Murphy against Robertson, with me looking forward to their aggressive style and approach of the game, performing tomorrow at Cheltenham. For now though, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you around next time for more action at the British Open here in 2025. Speak to you soon.